Hi everyone, my name is John Luke Hodgkins, and I am just another artist. Firstly, I would like to thank Chaos Group. Sorry, cut all of this. What is going on? Firstly, I'd like to thank Chaos Group for having me. Okay, I'm keeping this rolling because I definitely saw something that time. And oh Jesus, sorry, I don't know what is going on. Oh my god. Okay, this is insane. I don't know if you're seeing all this, but okay, I need to. This is ridiculous. Oh my god. Oh Jesus. Okay, I probably need to come back and do this at another time because I don't know what's going on. Okay, sorry.
Hi everyone, sorry about that first introduction, it went terribly wrong. So my name is John Luke Hodgkins and I am the director of the Visual Art Studio, Another Artist. Thank you, Nicholas, for the invite today, and it's a pleasure to be here at Chaos. Today I'm going to show you how I did a breakdown of my introduction. So starting at the beginning, the way this project worked out was I started with an idea and then came up with a very quick and dirty storyboard. This was to give me an indication of timings and things I wanted to say and kind of actions where my head should move. It was very basic, but I did this whole project in 2 days, including the VFX breakdown. So it was a bit of a rush, but yeah, I tried to smash it out. So I then got the camera equipment out and started filming on green screen, and then did a clay render of the space, and then eventually rendered it and commented all together. So this is just a very quick breakdown of the layers that went into this project. And then I'm going to go into more detail as how each layer was kind of created. So starting off, I measured my office because when I do meetings, this is normally my background. So I wanted it to continue being my background within this presentation. So I went around, grabbed measurements of absolutely everything. Then I jumped straight into 3D and started modeling everything in just quite simple basic formats using blocks as my measuring kind of facility. I did not have the CAD drawing, so I had to model it all from scratch. And obviously to do this as quick as possible, I just used some really basic techniques. Using photographs of the existing windows and then bring them in and remodeling them. I even tried doing some 3D scanning of some of the objects using some basic free apps I downloaded. The geometry was pretty chunky, so wasn't great to use. So I used photography that I took of the individual product items, and then joined with the photographs and the 3D scan. I remodeled from scratch everything that was in my room. I only had one existing model, so everything else I had to model and texture from scratch. So here you can see me placing the items after they've been modelled. So then moving on with lighting, I used interactive light mix, which is a pretty awesome tool I use quite religiously within Corona. I was trying to match to the existing site. Luckily it was all around me because I was sitting in the space at the time. So this is just a little Inception sort of view of me zooming into my desk. Obviously in real life I didn't turn on my LEDs. The next step was to make sure it was all camera tracked and matched properly, so looking at the heights of the cameras and the 3D cameras and then putting them into 3D space and matching it. Here's a render versus photograph. The next step, to do a teaser, I put a little camera in there, walked around in real time and tried to match the exact camera movements. I didn't really have time to track this camera and then, bring that data into 3ds Max. So I did it as best as possible, adding a noise sort of modifier to the camera. I did this originally and then rendered it, but I wasn't really happy with it because it wasn't as long as I hoped for it to be. I needed it slightly longer. So I redid it. So I put a longer camera path in there, and then I used the new zoom tool within my new iPhone, and I tried to replicate that again within 3D space. It's a little bit janky, but I think it kind of works. And then I did a VO and then added some headers, and then the teaser was complete. now I had my 3D space, I needed to do some rehearsals and acting for the full 50 seconds talk over the VO. So once I had set up my cameras and my green screen and, got out all the equipment I needed, I then started filming. I tried to do this in as short period as possible. I managed to get my footage I needed. Not great, but not an actor. Then the next step was to realize that I had to redo it because my hair was messy, because it's normally messy. So in order to green screen more simpler, I decided to go back and gel my hair and then redo it, and then start doing a basic rough roto of myself and then putting it back into 3D space and making sure that, it's all lined up and the timings work with, my head movements and objects moving around. The next step was to animate everything. So all the objects I'd modeled from existing real life, I then went back into 3D and just did very, very quick and dirty animation, camera path constraints, noise modifiers, clone modifiers, just really simple keyframe of all the objects. It's more like the cheerleader effect. When you look at the individual objects, they're not very good, but when you look at them all together, they look a little bit better. So I was going for that because I was obviously concerned that I didn't have much time to do this full project. But as you can see, there's quite a few resolved, sort of objects and some that aren't so resolved. For example, the ending where we get, kind of eaten, the camera gets eaten by a fish. I used quite simple, soft selection on the polys. I used FFD modifiers, and I used a path constraint, which, some really simple modeling and animation techniques. And I think, as cheesy as it is, it kind of works. So here is the final play blast of the animation with everything kind of moving and timed to kind of the way I set up. The next step would be to start making sure that I've tracked the keyframes and they match the sound. I try and use Macbeth charts and chrome balls and grey balls to get the real world lighting setups and information and camera distortion. So then I can reintroduce that back into the new comp to make it look that little bit more realistic. So the first thing I do in comp is get the footage and then bounce out as a denoise version. And then I use the denoise version. I remove all the overspill using despill. Sometimes the image has a lot of green in it, so I try and remove all that and then grade it to what I think is appropriate. Then I go back from my bounced out keying and I use that as a mask. So I use IBK to remove the green, and then I get my mask and then put it back in. From there, I start playing around with the lighting and the overall fake lighting coming in and some dust particles. This really helps to add that realism and that kind of contrast. With all the passes I bring in, I use a velocity pass because I don't render out the motion blur in 3ds Max anymore. I like to do it all in post, so I've got more control over it. So I add velocity to every single pass. Then looking at the grain of the footage compared to the background, I try to replicate that grain by taking it from the original footage and integrating it and introducing it to the background to making it fit more closely. Then looking at the fish, there's a moment where he comes from behind me and he's rotated out, and then he obviously comes and eats the screen, so he has to go in front of me. So by using a merge node, I managed to replicate that sort of effect. I also blew out one of my passes to get my nice blooming glares, and the blues bouncing off me and the pinks either side. I managed to do that as a screen over the top, and it ended up looking, kind of quite nice. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation and you've got something out of it. If you'd like to ask me about anything I've done, or if you'd like to collaborate or work together, please email me hello@anotherartist.co. My website is anotherartist.co, or follow me on Instagram @anotherartist, and artist has all the underscores. So thank you very much for watching and take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.